street that night. I had just picked up some takeout after a long day with Lily, and on a whim, I took the back way home. I rolled down the window, craving the cool Dallas air, when headlights flicked across my vision. My stomach dropped the second I recognized the car. Ryan's car. It was 10 at night. He'd told me he was at a late client meeting downtown, but here he was, just 3 blocks from where we used to crash on Madison's couch after long college nights. I slowed down instinctively, my chest tightening as I watched him ease into the curb. He didn't even park in front of her house. He pulled 1 block over, like he didn't want to be seen. I killed my engine. My hands gripped the steering wheel so hard I thought the leather would tear. Ryan got out, checked his phone, and then I saw it. The way he glanced around, shoulders hunched, before slipping through Madison's gate. He didn't knock. He had a key. My blood went ice cold. For a second, I thought I couldn't breathe. My husband of 5 years, the man I built my entire life with, sneaking into my best friend's house like a guilty teenager. I don't even remember getting out of my car. I only remember the pounding in my ears as I followed, the crunch of gravel under my shoes, the way my hand shook when I pushed open the side gate that never latched right. My vision tunneled. It was just Ryan's back, disappearing into the warm glow spilling out of Madison's living room. I stepped in right behind him. "Don't take your shoes off," I said, my voice cutting like a knife. Ryan froze mid-step. Madison was sitting on the couch in a silk robe, her legs crossed like she had been waiting for him. Her wine glass tilted, sloshing red across the floor when she saw me. "Tiff, what the hell?" Ryan stammered, spinning around, his face draining of color. "What the hell?" I laughed, but it came out sharp, bitter. "That's your question? Not, I can explain? Not, it's not what it looks like? Just shock because you didn't expect me to be the one behind you?" Madison shot up, clutching her robe at the chest. "Tiffany, listen. Don't you dare!" I snapped, my eyes burning into her. "Don't you dare say my name like you haven't been whispering it behind my back." Ryan reached for me, but I stepped back, shaking my head. "Don't touch me. Babe, it's not what you think." He tried, his voice low, almost pleading. I was just what? Delivering flowers at 10 o'clock at night? Going over real estate deals with a robe-wrapped woman who happens to be my best friend? My laugh came louder this time, breaking into the silence of the room. Madison's face twisted, her lips trembling, but she didn't deny it. She didn't need to. Everything was written in the way Ryan stood between us, like he could shield her from me. That was the moment I snapped. I walked straight past him, my heels clicking against her hardwood floors, and faced her dead on. "You sat in my kitchen last week, Madison. You looked at my daughter while she showed you her drawing of Aunt Maddie, and you smiled. All while you knew. You disgust me." Her eyes darted to Ryan, desperate for him to step in, but I cut him off before he could open his mouth. "And you?" I turned to him, fury swelling in my chest. "You think you're untouchable. You think I'd never find out, never put the pieces together, never drive down a different street and catch you slipping into her house like some pathetic teenager sneaking out after curfew." His mouth opened and closed. Nothing came out. I slapped him, hard. The sound cracked through the room, echoing louder than my words. Madison gasped, her hand flying to her mouth. Ryan staggered back, clutching his cheek, his eyes wide like he'd just seen a stranger instead of the woman who stood beside him at the altar 5 years ago. "You ruined this marriage the second you walked through that door," I hissed. "And you ruined every memory I ever had with her. Congratulations. You've managed to betray 2 people at once." Madison whispered something, maybe my name, but I didn't stay to hear it. My chest was heaving, my hands trembling, but my head had never felt clearer. I spun on my heel, my purse clutched so tight my knuckles went white, and stormed toward the door. "Tiff, wait!" Ryan called, his voice breaking. I didn't. I walked out of Madison's house, down the driveway, my chin high even as my tears blurred the streetlights. My phone was in my hand before I even reached the car. I wasn't calling him. I wasn't calling her. I was calling my sister. The moment she picked up, my voice was steady, almost cold. You were right. I saw it with my own eyes. I slid into the driver's seat, the taste of iron in my mouth from biting back sobs. As I pulled away from the curb, I caught one last glimpse of Ryan standing in the doorway, his face pale, his hand still pressed to his cheek where I had left my mark. He thought he had control. He thought he had time. But he didn't expect me to catch him, to already be planning my next move. That night, I didn't just leave Madison's street. I left the last piece of myself that ever believed in Ryan Hilton, and as the tears dried on my cheeks, one thought burned hotter than all the rest. I would make him regret ever turning that key. When I got home that night, I put Lily to bed without letting her see the storm brewing inside me. She curled against her stuffed bunny, her soft breath evening out, unaware her whole world was about to change. Watching her sleep was the only thing that kept me from crumbling. She was my anchor, the reason I had to stay sharp. Ryan and I had been married 5 years, together since college. Back then, he was ambitious, charming, always talking about how he'd build something big for us. I believed him. I believed in us. I even gave up my spot in a graduate design program because he convinced me his career in real estate needed my support more. Once we're stable, you'll have all the time in the world to do school, he said. I bought that dream, poured myself into making our house a home, into being the steady one while he chased clients and late nights. The irony? That house wasn't even really his. It was mine. The down payment came from my inheritance after my grandmother passed. I put my trust and my money into him, into us. Now every brick felt like a monument to my blind faith. And Madison. God, Madison. We met freshman year. She was wild, magnetic, the kind of friend who could talk you into anything at 2 a.m. I always thought I balanced her chaos with my steadiness. She was there when Ryan and I first started dating. She toasted at our wedding. She was in the hospital room when Lily was born. To say she was my best friend feels too small. She was family. Or at least I thought she was. Looking back, I can see the cracks. The way she touched his arm just a second too long when she laughed at his jokes. The late-night texts she brushed off as memes she just had to share. I told myself it was harmless, that my best friend and my husband could be close without crossing lines. I silenced the little alarms in my gut. Because who wants to admit the people closest to you might be carving out a place where you don't exist? I remember one night, not long ago, Ryan came home late. He smelled of perfume, not mine, something expensive and sharp. When I asked, he smiled and said a client hugged him at a closing. Madison giggled about it the next day when I mentioned it, saying, "At least you've got a husband women want." I laughed too, even though something in my chest twisted. I should have known. When I told my sister what I saw tonight, she went quiet for a long moment. Then she sighed and said, "Tiff, I didn't want to be the one to hurt you, but I've seen his car there before, at Madison's. More than once." The floor dropped out from under me. My sister, my blood, had held it back, probably to protect me. But hearing it, confirmation layered over what I saw with my own eyes, was like a blade twisting in my ribs. It wasn't just betrayal. It was betrayal built on years of sacrifice, of trust, of letting 2 people hold the most important parts of my life. And now, it wasn't just me on the line. Lily was in this too. Every decision I made from here forward would shape her childhood, her future. I wiped my face, pulled myself together, and whispered to myself in the dark, "No more silence. No more excuses." Because the cost of betrayal wasn't just my broken heart. It was my daughter's stability, my family's legacy, my own damn dignity. And I wasn't about to let them take any more. The morning after I caught Ryan slipping into Madison's house, I didn't wake up crying. I woke up furious. The grief had already burned through me in the night, leaving something sharper in its place. I sat at the kitchen table with a cup of coffee that went cold in my hands and mapped out my next moves in my head. For 5 years, I'd been the woman who supported him, smoothed things over, carried the weight. That woman was gone. The first call I made wasn't to him. It was to the bank. Our accounts were joint, but the inheritance I'd put in had always been traceable back to me. Within an hour, I had everything transferred into a separate account under my name alone. The woman on the phone confirmed it, her voice chipper and oblivious, and for the first time since last night, I felt like I had air in my lungs. Ryan would try to access money later and find the well dry. The second call was to a lawyer. Not just any lawyer, one recommended by my cousin who'd gone through her own messy divorce. She specialized in high-asset cases, women who needed someone ruthless. We set up a meeting for the next afternoon. I told her briefly what I'd seen, and she didn't waste time with sympathy. "If you've got evidence, we'll use it. For now, document everything," she said. Her no-nonsense tone steadied me. Then came the house, the place Ryan liked to parade around in, claiming he built this for us. I knew the deed had my name on it, tied back to my grandmother's inheritance. I pulled out the folder of documents I'd kept tucked in the filing cabinet, something I used to tease myself about for being overly cautious. Now, those papers were my shield. By mid-morning, I was throwing clothes into suitcases for me and Lily. Not in a chaotic rush, methodical. Lily's favorite dresses, her stuffed bunny, the bedtime books she begged for every night. My essentials, enough to get by. I didn't slam drawers or cry over framed photos. I moved like a woman on a mission. When Lily padded into the room, rubbing her eyes, she asked, "Mommy, are we going somewhere?" "Yes, baby," I said softly, kneeling to her height. "We're going to stay with Grandma and Grandpa for a little while. It'll be fun. You'll get to play in their big yard." Her smile was enough to push me through the sting of packing up my life. By noon, I was at my parents' house on the edge of town. My mom took one look at me and didn't ask questions. She just opened the door wider and hugged me. My dad helped carry the suitcases in, silent but steady. I could see the disappointment in his eyes, not in me, but in Ryan. He'd always given Ryan more credit than he deserved. Now, the truth was plain. Ryan must have noticed the empty house around the same time I settled Lily down for her nap. My phone buzzed with his name, again and again. At first, I ignored it. But when it didn't stop, I finally answered. "Where are you?" His voice was sharp, panicked. "Not where you think I'd be," I replied, calm. "What the hell, Tiff? I came home and half your stuff is gone. The accounts. What did you do?" "What I should have done a long time ago," I said evenly. "Protected myself. Protected our daughter. You can't just take the money. That's our money." "No, Ryan. That was my grandmother's money. The only reason you ever had access to it is because I trusted you. And we both know what you did with that trust last night." There was a pause, heavy and suffocating. Then, "Tiff, please, let's just talk." "I have nothing to say to you right now," I cut in. "You'll hear from my lawyer." I hung up before he could answer. My hands were steady, my pulse calm. For the first time in weeks, maybe months, I felt in control. That evening I sat with my sister on my parents' porch, the Texas heat settling low and sticky. She handed me a glass of sweet tea and said, "I've never seen you like this. It's like you flipped a switch." "I had to," I admitted. "If I let myself break, he wins, and I won't let Lily grow up thinking her mom was weak." She squeezed my hand and we sat in silence, listening to the cicadas buzz in the distance. Inside, my phone lit up with more missed calls, more frantic texts from Ryan. Accusations, excuses, promises. I didn't open them. Let him sweat. Let him panic. Because while he was scrambling, I was already moving forward. The victim he thought he could manipulate was gone. In her place was a woman who had nothing left to lose, and everything to take back. By the next morning, the first cracks in Ryan's perfect little world had already begun to spread. I knew the exact moment he tried to use his cards. My phone buzzed with a notification from the bank. Unsuccessful transaction. I pictured him at some overpriced steakhouse, trying to impress a client, only to have the waiter come back with that awkward smile. Ryan hated looking small in front of people. That decline would have cut him deeper than any slap I could have delivered. Not even an hour later, my phone lit up again. This time it wasn't calls. It was a text storm. Ryan, what the hell is going on with the accounts? Ryan, you're overreacting. Ryan, call me now. I didn't. Instead, I sat at my parents' kitchen table with Lily eating her cereal beside me, and I let his panic pile up. Every ding of my phone was proof I'd taken the first step right. By noon, Madison's name showed up too. She had the nerve to text me. Madison, can we talk? Please, talk. As if there was anything left to say. She wasn't sorry she betrayed me. She was sorry she got caught. I didn't bother replying. Silence was sharper than any words I could throw at her. That night, my sister came over with groceries. People are talking, she said as she unpacked bags onto the counter. Already? I asked. She nodded. One of Madison's co-workers told a friend. Said Ryan's been hanging around her office trying to explain himself. She doesn't look so untouchable anymore. I let that sink in. Madison thrived on being the woman everyone envied. The one with perfect hair, expensive shoes, the life she made look effortless. Now whispers were circling her, not admiration but disgust. And Ryan? Well, Ryan's reputation mattered more to him than oxygen. He built his career in real estate on charm and connections. If those connections started seeing him as reckless, untrustworthy, pathetic, his empire would collapse without me having to lift a finger. Later that evening, he finally showed up. I heard his car crunch over the gravel before I saw him. My dad got to the door first, and the way he stood there, broad, silent, arms crossed, made Ryan hesitate. I need to talk to my wife, Ryan said, trying to sound authoritative. She doesn't owe you a damn thing, my dad answered. Dad, it's fine, I said, stepping into view. My heart pounded, but I kept my voice steady. I'll talk to him. Ryan looked like he hadn't slept. His hair was a mess, his shirt wrinkled, a far cry from the polished man he liked to show the world. He tried to push past me into the house, but I blocked the doorway. We're not doing this inside, I said firmly. Tiff, you can't just disappear with my daughter, drain our accounts, and act like... Our daughter, I snapped. And you don't get to say her name after where I found you the other night. His mouth opened, but I didn't let him fill the silence. You lied to me. You lied to Lily. You stood in Madison's house with a key in your hand. Do you understand what that means? You didn't just break vows. You broke our family. His voice cracked then, desperation creeping in. I made a mistake, okay? I screwed up. But you can't punish me like this. People are already whispering. Clients are backing out. Not my problem. I cut in coldly. You should have thought about that before sneaking around with my best friend. His jaw clenched, his eyes darting back toward the driveway where his car sat. For a second, I saw the flicker of the man I once loved, but it was gone just as quickly, replaced by the selfish, cornered version I now recognized clearly. I'll fix this, he said finally, almost like he was convincing himself. Just come home and we can work it out. No, I said simply. This isn't your game anymore, Ryan. You don't get to set the rules. You'll hear from my lawyer soon. The weight of my words seemed to hit him all at once. He reached for me, but I stepped back and shut the door. My dad stood on the other side, silent but proud, and for once, I felt like I wasn't fighting alone. That night, as I tucked Lily into bed at my parents' house, I realized the shift had already begun. Ryan was unraveling, Madison was flailing, and the people around us were starting to see the truth. My silence was louder than any confrontation could have been. And this was only the beginning. Ryan's mother insisted on hosting Sunday dinner that week. Normally, I would have skipped it. Why sit through polite smiles and fake conversation when the wounds were still bleeding? But then I thought about it. A family dinner wasn't just a meal. It was an audience. Ryan's parents, his brothers, his aunts, the very people who thought he could do no wrong. If there was ever a stage to rip the mask off, this was it. I dressed simply. No flashy makeup, no forced smile. Just me, steady and calm, with a folder tucked inside my bag. My sister came along for support, her presence a silent anchor at my side. When we walked into the Hilton family's sprawling dining room, heads turned. Whispers darted across the table like static. Ryan was already there, seated beside his father, looking like he hadn't slept in days. Madison was nowhere in sight, but her absence said enough. "Tiffany," Ryan's mother said warmly, standing to kiss my cheek as if nothing had happened. Her eyes flicked to my sister, curious. "I wasn't sure if you'd come." "Neither was I replied coolly, taking my seat. My gaze locked on Ryan. He looked everywhere but at me. Dinner started in tense silence. Plates clinked, small talk stumbled. Ryan's father tried to keep the conversation light, but the air was thick with the truth nobody wanted to say. Finally, Ryan cleared his throat, his voice thin. "Tiff, maybe we should talk. Privately," he muttered. "No," I said firmly, loud enough for the entire table to hear. "We'll talk right here." The room froze. Knives hovered above plates. His father frowned. "What's going on?" I reached into my bag and slid the folder onto the table. "This," I said. My voice didn't waver. Ryan's face drained of color. "Don't." I opened the folder, pulling out printed screenshots, messages between Ryan and Madison, time-stamped photos, call logs. I laid them out like cards in a poker game, one by one, for everyone to see. Gasps rippled down the table. Ryan's mother covered her mouth, whispering, "Oh my God." Ryan lunged forward, trying to gather the papers, but I was faster. I pressed my palm over them. "Don't even try. You've lied to me for months, to everyone at this table. And while I was raising our daughter, you were sneaking into Madison's bed." The silence shattered. His aunt whispered to his cousin. His brother shook his head in disgust. His father's jaw tightened, veins bulging at his temple. Ryan's voice cracked. "You're humiliating me." I laughed, a short, bitter sound. "You humiliated yourself the moment you betrayed your wife with her best friend. All I'm doing is making sure the people who defended you see exactly who you are." "Tiff, stop," he hissed, desperate. "We can work this out. You don't need to drag everyone into it." I leaned forward, my voice sharp as glass. "They dragged themselves into it when they held you up like some golden boy, when they told me to be patient with your long hours, or to trust your ambition. Well, here's the truth. Your ambition was Madison, and you'll live with that." His father finally spoke, his voice like thunder. "Is this true?" Ryan stammered. "Dad, it was complicated, Complicated?" I cut in. "No, Ryan, it was simple. You chose her. You chose to burn down everything I built with you. And now you get to face the ashes." Ryan's father slammed his palm on the table, making the silverware jump. "Get out." Ryan's head whipped toward him. "What? You heard me?" His father barked. "Get out of my house, out of my sight. You've disgraced this family." The room went silent again, the only sound Ryan's shaky breath as he rose from his chair. He looked at me, pleading with his eyes, but I didn't flinch. I stood, gathering the papers, slipping them back into the folder. And then I delivered the line that I knew would travel far beyond this dining room. Ryan Hilton thought he could cheat on his wife with her best friend and still keep his family's respect. But respect isn't something you beg for, it's something you earn. And you just lost it forever. Aunt Linda gasped. His brother muttered, "Damn." The words hung in the air like smoke, searing and unforgettable. Ryan stumbled toward the door, his shoulders sagging, his father's glare burning into his back. No one followed him. No one defended him. Even his mother sat frozen, her hands trembling as she stared at the empty seat where her son had been. I picked up my glass of water, took a sip, and set it down. "Now," I said calmly, "can someone pass the bread?" The tension broke, replaced by a stunned silence that said everything. I had done what I came to do. Ripped the mask off Ryan in front of the very people he wanted most to impress. The whispers would spread, the line would echo, and Ryan's carefully polished image would never recover. And as I walked out of that house with my sister at my side, I knew this was only the second act. The real destruction was just beginning. Ryan was always obsessed with appearances. Even as our marriage crumbled, I knew he'd try to claw back his image. And right on cue, he went public. It started with a Facebook post, a long, rambling paragraph about misunderstandings, about how marriage is complicated and how certain people were twisting the narrative. He didn't name me, but everyone knew who he meant. Then he doubled down with Instagram stories, pictures of him at the gym, him looking focused with captions about staying strong in hard times. At first, I laughed. It was so transparent, so desperate. But then I saw the comments. A handful of people, mostly his drinking buddies and a couple of shallow coworkers, were actually defending him. "We all make mistakes. Don't let her drag you down, bro." That's when I realized he wasn't just flailing. He was trying to rewrite the story. And if I stayed quiet, his version would spread. So I didn't stay quiet. I started small. A photo of my hand holding lilies, captioned, "Some people value family, some just pretend to." It wasn't direct, but everyone knew. The likes poured in, comments of support flooding faster than I expected. People wanted to take my side. They just needed me to give them something to hold on to. The next day, my lawyer called. "If he's already going public, we need to get ahead of this. Do you have evidence we can release?" I opened the folder I'd carried since that dinner at his parents' house. Screenshots, voicemails, the photo of his car parked outside Madison's at midnight. Proof stacked higher than his ego. "Yes," I said. "I have everything. We didn't leak it all at once. That would have been messy, forgettable. We trickled it out, one piece at a time. First, a screenshot of Ryan texting Madison. "She's asleep. I'll come over now." Then a few days later, a voicemail where his voice was unmistakable. "Don't tell Tiffany. She'll leave me if she finds out." Each drop landed like a bomb. People screenshotted, reposted, whispered. The hashtags started then. Team Tiff. By Ryan. Someone even made a TikTok montage of my wedding photos contrasted with his texts to Madison. It went viral overnight. Ryan panicked. He called me, voice frantic. "Why are you doing this? You're ruining me." "No, Ryan," I said coldly. "You ruined yourself. I'm just turning the lights on so everyone else can see it." But it wasn't just me anymore. Madison began to crack under the weight, too. Her company quietly pushed her out after clients started emailing about unprofessional behavior. She tried to post a teary selfie about toxic friendships and being misunderstood. The internet ripped her apart. "You're not misunderstood," one comment read. "You're a homewrecker." Another, "Imagine betraying your best friend and a little girl. Shame on you." Madison deleted her account 2 days later. Meanwhile, Ryan doubled down, thinking if he went bigger, he could flip the story. He booked himself on a local podcast, some guy who loved drama and called himself a truth teller. Ryan sat there in front of a mic, spinning his lies. "She took my money. She turned my own family against me. I was trapped in a loveless marriage, and Madison was just an escape." I watched the clip with my sister, fury boiling in my chest. "Loveless?" I muttered. "He begged me to have another baby 6 months ago." My lawyer smiled grimly. "Good. Let him keep talking. The more he spins, the easier he is to break." And then came the knockout punch. A friend of mine who worked in IT pulled a backup from Madison's old phone before she wiped it. Hidden in there was a video. Grainy, but clear enough. Ryan, in Madison's kitchen, laughing, bragging, "She's never going to leave me. She's too soft. I've got her money, her kid, her whole life in my hands. When that clip hit the internet, it was over. The backlash was immediate and brutal. The hashtags trended nationally for 2 days. People didn't just pity me, they despised him. Memes popped up with his face under the words, "too soft." Restaurants canceled his networking events. Even his own brother posted, "Can't believe I share blood with this clown." Ryan went dark after that. His Instagram vanished, his phone calls slowed, but the damage was already permanent. His name, once tied to success and charm, was now tied to betrayal, arrogance, and downfall. The final blow came from his father. The Hilton family had always prided themselves on their spotless reputation in Dallas real estate. When Ryan's scandal hit the news blogs, his father released a statement. "Ryan Hilton no longer represents our family business. We stand with Tiffany and Lily." I read it twice, stunned. The man who once told me to be patient with Ryan's long hours was now standing publicly with me. That night, I sat on my parents' porch with Lily asleep inside, scrolling through messages of support from strangers. I didn't feel triumphant. Not yet. I felt steady, like I was finally steering the ship instead of clinging to wreckage. Ryan wanted a PR war. He got one. And now, his face was plastered everywhere, not as a rising star, but as the cautionary tale of a man who thought he could cheat, lie, and brag his way through life without consequence. And the best part? This was just the beginning of his real unraveling. The courts were next. The day we stepped into the courthouse, Ryan still thought he could charm his way out of everything. He wore a tailored suit, slicked back his hair, and carried that smirk he used to close real estate deals. But the smirk faded the moment my lawyer set her files down. Thick binders filled with receipts, screenshots, deeds, and account records. He thought this was going to be a negotiation. It wasn't. It was an execution. The judge reviewed the case with cool detachment, but I saw the way her eyebrows lifted when she read through the evidence. The screenshots of his late-night messages to Madison, the financial records showing how he siphoned joint funds for weekend getaways and gifts that weren't mine. Every piece was a nail in his coffin. When Ryan tried to argue, his voice wavered. "Your Honor, Tiffany is blowing this out of proportion. She's vindictive, and she's trying to cut me off from my daughter." My lawyer didn't even blink. She slid forward the video clip, him bragging in Madison's kitchen about having my money and my life in his hands. The courtroom went silent as his own words echoed off the walls. Ryan dropped his gaze, his face burning red. The judge's ruling was swift. Sole custody to me. Child support at a level that would bleed him dry. The house officially transferred to my name alone. And because my inheritance had funded most of our assets, Ryan walked away with little more than the clothes on his back. Outside the courtroom, he tried one last time. "Tiff, please, don't do this. Don't take everything." I looked him dead in the eye. "You already took everything from me when you stepped into Madison's house. This is just me taking it back." He had no answer. From that day on, the freefall accelerated. His father's company formally cut ties, and without the Hilton name behind him, Ryan's clients evaporated. Deals fell apart. His face, once plastered on glossy real estate ads around Dallas, was quietly replaced. His phone stopped ringing with opportunity. It only rang with debt collectors. Meanwhile, Madison's collapse was just as brutal. After losing her job, she tried to lean on Ryan. But Ryan without money was just another burden. The whispers in her social circle grew louder. Friends she once partied with avoided her calls, and the women who used to envy her turned their backs. Betraying me hadn't made her powerful, it had made her radioactive. One night, my sister sent me a screenshot of Madison's new Facebook post, a blurry photo of takeout containers and an empty wine bottle with the caption, "Starting over is harder than it looks." The comments underneath weren't sympathy. They were judgment, harsh and cutting. "Maybe don't start over by sleeping with your best friend's husband." She deleted it within hours. Ryan ended up moving into a cramped apartment on the edge of town. No doorman, no marble countertops, no rooftop pool, just peeling paint and thin walls. a far cry from the life he once flaunted. I heard from a mutual acquaintance that he pawned his watch collection to cover rent. The man who once bragged about being untouchable now stood in line at discount stores, hoping no one recognized him. Lily adjusted better than I ever could have hoped. She was too young to understand the full mess, but she knew enough. One night, after a bedtime story, she whispered, "Mommy, you don't cry anymore." I kissed her forehead and smiled. "That's because I'm strong now, baby. For both of us." The family who once told me to be patient with Ryan now rallied around me. His own father called to apologize, genuinely apologize, for defending his son for so long. "I raised him wrong," he admitted, his voice heavy with shame. "But you're the strong one." Hearing those words felt like closure I never thought I'd get. As for Ryan, his calls turned from angry to pathetic. First, he accused me of destroying him. Then, when the silence stretched too long, he begged, "Just let me see Lily. I'll change. I'll do anything." But the court order was clear: supervised visits only, and even those he struggled to afford. I didn't hate him anymore. Hate took energy, and I was done giving him that. What I felt was colder, indifference. The final blow came when I heard Madison had left him too. She packed up and disappeared, chasing some new life in another city. She'd used him like he used me, and when the well dried up, she walked. Ryan was alone, stripped of money, family, respect, and even the woman he sacrificed it all for. Me? I was free. Walking out of the courthouse that last day, holding Lily's hand, I felt the weight lift off my shoulders. I had lost years, tears, and trust, but I had gained something unshakable: control over my life again. Ryan had been dismantled piece by piece, until nothing remained but the ruins of the man who thought he owned me. And as those courthouse doors closed behind me, I knew one thing for certain: his story was over. Mine was just beginning. I hadn't planned on seeing Ryan again. After the court ruling, after the fallout, I thought the last time I looked him in the eye would be in that courtroom where the judge stripped him of custody and dignity in one sweep. But life rarely works the way we expect. It was a gray Thursday when I got the call. My lawyer told me Ryan had requested a supervised visit with Lily, but he hadn't shown up at the designated center. Instead, he asked if I would meet him. "Just for 5 minutes," he said. I almost refused. But something in me needed to see the end with my own eyes. Not through paperwork, not through silence. Face to face. So I drove to the dingy apartment he now called home. The building smelled of old cigarettes and mold. The hallway carpets were stained, the kind of place Ryan once would have sneered at if we drove by. Now, it was his reality. He opened the door before I even knocked, like he'd been standing there, waiting. His eyes were hollow, his skin pale. He wasn't the man I married. He wasn't even the man who betrayed me. He was smaller, shrunken, like the world had taken back everything he once stole. "Tiff," he said softly, his voice raw. "Thank you for coming." I stepped inside without answering. The apartment was bare, just a couch with a rip in the fabric, a table with a single chair, boxes stacked in the corner. No photos, no decorations. Not a single trace of Madison. He gestured toward the couch. "Sit, please." I stayed standing. "Say what you need to say." His shoulders slumped. "I'm sorry." I laughed, sharp and humorless. "Now? After everything? After dragging me through lies, through court, through public humiliation? You finally find the word sorry?" He rubbed his face with both hands. "I was stupid. I thought I could have it all. You, the family, the house, and Madison. I thought I was untouchable. But look at me now." He waved around the apartment, his voice breaking. "I've got nothing." "That's not true," I said evenly. "You still have the one thing you built all by yourself, your consequences." He flinched like I'd slapped him again. "Tiff, please. I've lost everything. My job, my reputation, my family. Even Madison's gone. She left. I haven't heard from her in weeks. I don't even know where she is." I tilted my head, studying him. And that surprises you? She was never going to stay once the money dried up. She used you the same way you used me. His eyes watered, and for a second I saw the boyish version of Ryan I once fell for. Vulnerable, desperate. I miss Lily, he whispered. Please let me see her. I'll do anything. I tightened my grip on my bag. You had a chance to put her first. Every night you walked out that door, every lie you told, every time you chose Madison over us. You chose this outcome. She doesn't need a father who values his ego over her stability. She needs safety. She needs consistency. And that's me. Tears slipped down his cheeks. He dropped to the couch, head in his hands. I don't know how to live like this, he muttered. I don't know who I am without you. The words cut deeper than I expected. Once, that line might have cracked me, made me second guess. But not anymore. Now, it just sounded like the truth of a man who had built his identity on lies. You don't know who you are? I repeated, my voice steady. That's because every version of you was built on someone else's back. Mine. Madison's? Your father's? You've never built anything real. He lifted his head, eyes red. Can't we start over? Please. I'll be different. I swear. I shook my head slowly, deliberately. No, Ryan. You can't undo the damage. You can't erase the night I followed you into Madison's house, or the way you bragged about owning my life. You can't rebuild trust out of rubble. You're the architect of your own destruction. And I'm done standing in the ruins with you. He choked out a sob, burying his face in his hands again. His shoulders shook, his body folding in on itself. For the first time, I saw him not as my husband, not as my betrayer, but as a broken man brought down by his own choices. I turned toward the door. He called after me, his voice desperate and cracking. Tiff, please, don't leave me like this. I paused, hand on the doorknob, and looked back one final time. I already left you the night I saw you slip into Madison's house. Everything after that was just me reclaiming what you tried to steal. Goodbye, Ryan. And then I walked out, closing the door behind me with a finality that echoed in my chest. The hallway smelled of cigarettes and mold, but to me, it was fresh air. Freedom. I didn't look back. 6 months later, I barely recognized the woman in the mirror. The circles under my eyes were gone, replaced with a glow I hadn't seen in years. My mornings weren't filled with dread, waiting for Ryan to stumble in with excuses. Instead, they were filled with Lily's laughter, the clatter of breakfast dishes in my parents' kitchen until I got my own place again, and the quiet satisfaction of knowing I had rebuilt something solid. I started my own business, home staging for real estate listings. It felt poetic. While Ryan's career crumbled, mine bloomed. Clients loved my touch, the way I could turn an empty space into something warm, inviting, lived in. Word spread quickly. Within months, I had more work than I could handle, and for the first time in my life, the success was mine alone. Lily thrived too. She adjusted to preschool like a champ, making friends, bringing home finger paint masterpieces that I pinned proudly on the fridge. She still asked about her dad sometimes, in the innocent way children do. I told her the truth, softened for her little heart. Daddy made mistakes, but Mommy's here, and you're safe. That was enough for her. And honestly, it was enough for me too. Every now and then, I heard whispers about Ryan. How he'd been spotted at bars, looking thinner, older. How Madison had resurfaced in another city, already attached to someone new. Neither mattered anymore. They were ghosts in my story, shadows of a life I'd left behind. One evening, as Lily played in the yard with her cousins, I sat on the porch watching the Texas sky turn pink and gold. My sister leaned against the railing beside me. "Do you ever think about him?" she asked. "Not really," I said, surprising myself with the truth of it. "He's like an old scar. I know it's there, but it doesn't hurt anymore." She smiled softly. "You're stronger than I've ever seen you." And I was. Not because I hadn't been broken, but because I had rebuilt myself piece by piece. Betrayal had stripped me down. but it had also given me clarity. I no longer lived to keep a man happy, no longer silenced alarms in my gut to keep peace. I trusted myself again. As the sun dipped below the horizon, I thought back to that night outside Madison's house. The image of Ryan slipping through her gate, believing he was untouchable. That night had felt like the end of everything. Now I saw it differently. It was the beginning. Because sometimes destruction clears the ground for something stronger. Sometimes losing what you thought you couldn't live without shows you exactly what you're capable of. I glanced at Lily, her curls bouncing as she ran barefoot through the grass, her giggles carrying through the warm evening air. That sound was my victory song, louder than hashtags, louder than courtroom rulings, louder than Ryan's pleas. I took a deep breath, the kind that fills you with peace from the inside out. For the first time in years, I felt free. Thank you so much for watching my story. If it hit you, don't forget to click that hype button. I'd love to hear your thoughts or even your own experiences down in the comments. And of course, make sure to subscribe and hit that like button for more.